You guys, we have such a rad person with us today, Richard Hanks. I was going to try to shorten down this introduction, but it honestly is just too packed full with incredible accomplishments. So we're going to read the whole thing. So here we go. Rich Hanks is an investor and advisor to both startups and established businesses. He has served as a board director of numerous profit and nonprofit companies and organizations. He was a senior executive at several of the largest multinational companies in the world, and also a successful serial entrepreneur, being named Entrepreneur of the Year, raising $250 million in capital, building and selling 2 companies, and also watching another one go down in flames. Rich is an in-demand public speaker, best-selling author, and well-regarded lecturer at many universities. He adores his wife, loves his terrific children, and spoils his 11 grandchildren. So give a warm welcome to Richard Hanks. Welcome. You're on the blue couch.
Do I get to lie down?
I mean, if you want, we can make this a therapy session or an interview, whichever you prefer.
I'd like to thank my wife for that.
She did very well. I'm going to hand... Do we have a microphone? Oh, you have one.
Hello, hello.
There we go. We're in business. Richard, so obviously you've seen a lot of failures and a lot of successes throughout your career. Can you start off by telling us about 1 or 2 of those that really stand out to you?
Sure. Before I begin, I want to say thanks for having me.
Oh, of course.
Thanks,
Thank
Darren.
you.
Thank you, Darren, Bart, Jason, Bree. So let's see. I gave a lot of thought to this because I've seen a lot. And I think the one that's might interest you the most is I was minding my own business working at Marriott. I was in charge of sales and marketing. And I had these 3 friends said, hey, why don't you move to Utah to become an entrepreneur? And I always wanted to be a CEO of a tech company. So I came out here and we worked at that. It was called myassociation.com. I still have the dot that was on our sign. I keep that as a reminder of what not to do. This is in 1999 and 2000 when the world was going a little crazy for capital, and a lot of my friends had left their big jobs and had gone to startups. So I did the same thing. 5 months into it, I went, oh, this dog won't hunt. And so we pivoted it, and we changed directions. We called it Blue Step, just in time for 9/11 to happen. And so we sold Blue Step at a fire sale. It still exists. It's still out there, but it wasn't a big success. So then right after that, my opportunity to work with John Sperry and Kurt Williams, my partners at Mindshare, and John's been here, and that one was a little different story. It worked out great, and I've been pleased to be a part of that. And then since then, I've just seen tons and tons of small little companies trying to get going. Some are huge successes, some are going down in flames. So that's I think that's an answer to your question.
Yes, that's perfect. Thank you. So of all of the failures that you've seen and companies that you've been a part of, can you pinpoint 1 or 2 reasons why companies fail?
Okay, I want to do that through a story. It's 1999. I am working at Marriott and taking red eyes to Silicon Valley to try to raise money for a startup so that I can leave my big company and try this out. So we raised $20 million, but let me tell you about 10 million of it. It happened in the Denver airport. I flew from Washington, D.C. to Denver. I met with a guy who told me, anyway, that he made $800 million the year before. Pretty impressive. Never really met anybody that had done that before. I sat down with him at lunch. He interviewed me for 3 hours. He didn't ask about the company at all. He just wanted to know about me. And then he looked right at me, and this is what he said. Rich, why do companies fail? I gave the coolest answer. I gave the answer that many of you might give. It was an MBA answer. I felt so awesome. I gave him this big long thing. He looked right at me and said, nice try. Rich, let me tell you why companies fail. They run out of cash. And I thought, well, that's pretty simple for a guy that made $800 million last year. And that's my advice. Companies only fail for one reason. They run out of cash. Now, some of you are thinking, well, then I need to go get more cash. And that's not the answer to that. That's not the answer to that problem. The problem, in my opinion, is many entrepreneurs, including a lot that I'm around, think of these terms and these things that they were taught. Maybe even here at RevRoad. I don't think so, but I know at some of the universities around here. They teach you these fun words, you know. They teach you about seed round and A round and B round and founders rounds, and all of that is horse sense. The only thing that should matter to you is revenues and EBITDA. That's it. You need to get to profitability. Unless you're building an airline, right? You got to buy a few planes, you need some money. But forget all this stuff. Go out and form a real profitable company. One that makes money and will be here in years. Now, some of you are saying, yeah, but we need, in 1999, it was eyeballs. We need eyeballs. And I guess in today's parlance, that would be, we need users. We need followers. That's not how you make money as a little business. You make money by getting to profitability as quickly as you can. Again, unless you're trying to start an airline. I'm flabbergasted, honestly, by all of the CEOs I talk to these days. It's always about the next round. That's not what building a company is. If you want to go down in history as being able to raise a lot of money, that's awesome. That's not what an entrepreneur is. An entrepreneur wants to raise money up front, as little as possible. We raised $450,000 and got to $28 million before I left as a church leader, not on my own volunteer. Forget the eyeballs, forget the followers, forget all that stuff, and get to profitability. That's my advice.
Get to profitability. So in the world of entrepreneurship now, which honestly is a great thing, but it also is the reality, it's becoming a lot more saturated as time and our economy evolve, right? So in your experience, what makes an entrepreneur or a company stand out?
So my simple answer to that is be a doer, D-O-E-R, and not a talker. There's a lot of talkers. No offense to Utah Valley. This whole valley is full of talk. Utah County is full of talkers. Forget the talkers. Just be a doer. When I was a church leader, I used to tell my missionaries, be one of the STP, same 10 people. Who are the STP? The STP are the ones that stay late for work. They're the ones that volunteer when hard stuff needs to be done. They're the ones that put these chairs out today. If you want to succeed, become a doer and less of a talker. I also wrote a few other notes. I love this LinkedIn post. I think it's about a month ago I saw this LinkedIn post from some CEO, and this is what he said. I hired a broker to sublease my space. I got nothing for weeks. I got on the phone and called 100 people and have 2 tours scheduled. So think about that. The CEO went on the phone, called as many people as he could, got 2 tours scheduled, whereas the broker, who actually makes money to do this, had brought him nothing for month after month. I cannot tell you the number of times I've seen that in both as an investor, but more particularly as a person working in the operations of businesses. How many people are just skating by? So surround yourself with people who are doers, and you become a doer. John Sperry was here a couple months ago, and when John and I were working at Mindshare, one day he looked at me and he said, we need a whiteboard. My last whiteboard at Marriott had cost me $3,500. Marriott's a big company with a lot of cherry wood and nice whiteboards. Do you know what our whiteboard cost at Mindshare? $8. We went down to Home Depot and got a bath panel, 4x8 bath panel, turned it sideways. John bought his router, I bought some wood from home, and we framed it and stuck it on the wall. By the way, it worked great for, I don't even know, 15 years. Just become a doer. You'll have to decide what that means for you. But to me, if you want to stand out and be successful, become a doer.
Get it done.
Oh wait, I have one more thing.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
As it relates to talkers, beware of the articulate nincompoop. It's a technical term. Beware of the articulate nincompoop. A lot of people talk a big thing. Ask them what they've done. Surround yourself with people that are willing to work at it. I just wanted to add that.
No, I appreciate that. That was great. Articulate nincompoop. I'm going to write that down.
Say you heard that here.
We'll give you credit. Of all the places that you have spoken and you have taught at, what is one of the most valuable lessons that you have learned?
So Bree gave me these questions in advance, so I gave them some thought. I'd like to share with you a principle that changed my life. And you're going to go, no, it's not that cool, but maybe it is. And it's this. It's the eat well versus sleep well strategy. All day long, you are faced with an eat well, sleep well strategy. You may or may not have thought about it, called that, but that's what it is. Do I want to eat well right now or sleep well tonight? So let me give you some examples. You've also maybe heard work before pleasure. It's another way of kind of saying the same thing. Eating well means making decisions that benefit you today. I'm going to eat well and I'm going to be fat, see? Or you can sleep well, which doesn't have the current gratification but has some thinking about sacrificing today so that I can have a future reward. Let me give you a couple examples. Some of you are going to be successful and you're going to go right out and buy a Tesla. Or you could go right out and buy a Chevy and save the money from the Tesla. Instead of making payments on the big fancy car, you could put that money in an account called My Next Car. That's what I did. I did it for 5 years. I put $320 a month into a new car. And then when it came time, I bought the new car with cash. No interest payments. All that interest went to me instead of to somebody else. That seems sort of easy, but what really happened is I had to drive a piece of garbage car for 5 years and teach my wife how to drive a stick shift, which may have been better to just get the new car. No, sorry, honey. School. When you're in school, do I study tonight or do I party? It's the same thing over and over again. Let me give you one you may not have thought about for school, which is, do I take the easy class where I can get an A, or I take the hard class where I'm going to learn something? A lot of us, all of us, have that choice if you're going to go to college. Do I take the easy class for the A, or do I go for something that will help me become better? Do I take money out of my company, or do I bootstrap it? So I would argue that if you choose the sleep well strategy, meaning delay gratification, that you will eventually be able to both eat well and sleep well. Does that make sense? There was a time in our company at Mindshare where we didn't have a nickel. And I was trying to find money, and we were having, I won't get into the details of it, but we went to all of our employees and said, will you take no money? And a couple of them couldn't, but most of them said, yeah, we'll just put it into future stock. All those people made gobs of money when we sold. And so they deferred. Now, some of them couldn't, so that makes sense. Let me give the ultimate and eat well, sleep well strategy. When I was at BYU, I happened to fall in love with my wife, who who went to that red school up north. And so I had to do this I-15 dating thing for years, it felt like. And so at BYU, I would study from Monday morning until Thursday night. And I would study straight through. I was the worst BYU social student in the history of BYU. And on Thursday, I got on I-15, and I went to Salt Lake, and I kissed Liz from Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. This isn't being recorded. Okay. And she's the grandmother to our 11 grandkids. It was totally worth it. But I had to sacrifice because I had to study at BYU while everybody else was partying.
Sleep well. So outside of sleeping well, entrepreneurs who are well rested, what are 2 characteristics that cannot be copied, but that are beneficial to an entrepreneur's success? Okay,
I'm really passionate about this. I think almost anything you do can be copied. Unless you have some incredible patent, 90% of what you do can be copied. Frankly, the businesses that I ran could all be copied, right? Hotels. It's easy to copy hotels. Mindshare, which became In Moment, We do customer feedback, employee feedback. It can be copied. In fact, the day I started, we had 4 or 5 competitors. So what can't be copied? Well, in my opinion, what can't be copied is urgency and speed. No one can ever copy the way you make them feel about your little company. And so I would say urgency and responsiveness, particularly in today, stands out so strong. If you call my phone today and I'm not answering it, you know what it'll say? Hi, it's Rich. What do yours all say? Those of you who still use voicemail. Hi, it's Rich. I'm not here right now. I'll call you back as soon as I can because I don't really care about you. I'm going to call you back when it's convenient for me because you must have just called me, I don't know, for no reason. Well, you guys are dead. That was a joke. Thank you. Courtesy laugh. So I had a guy I worked with, and I listened to his voicemail. You know what his voicemail says? Guess what mine says now? Hey, it's Rich. I'm not here right now. If you leave me a message, I will call you back today. Now, what's the risk of that? That I can't, or that I don't. Well, then change that. Call him back today. And I fulfill that promise, like 99.9% of the time, unless I'm at Bear Lake and there's no, there's Lake Powell or somewhere where there's no service. Urgency and responsiveness will make you stand out in the world. I deal with CEOs all the time. Some of you may be in here. I've invested in 5 or 6 of you, in addition to RevRoad. You know what? I'm your investor. I gave you money. I call you, and you don't call me back for 4 days? I mean, that just is human nature. I just say to myself, man, I wish I hadn't invested in them. What if somebody asks you to do something through a text or an email and you can't get to it right away? What does the other person want to know? They want to know that you got the email and that you're working on it. So immediately fire back an email or a text that says, I got your email, I don't have the answer, I'm coming up with the answer, I'll get back to you. Nobody does that. You do that, you're going to stand out like immense to everybody else. When I was the chairman and president of InMoment, I would walk around, and on our phones back then had a red light if somebody left a message. And I'd walk up behind our employees and I'd go, hey, you have a red light. And they'd go, yeah. And they'd go, let's call them together. That could be a customer. So I think I've pounded this dead, I've been probably killing this horse, but if you can just get urgency and responsiveness, nobody can copy that.
So as entrepreneurs come upon roadblocks, which are very, very common, what advice would you give them as they approach these challenges?
You've heard this, you're going to hear it again, tenacity, persistence. Don't give up. Now, you're also going to hear me say in a minute, if you're dying, pivot. Don't be stupid about this. But tenacity is an impressive thing. Persistence is an impressive thing. When I started at Mindshare, we had no customers. We actually had one. It was a one restaurant, and we needed customers bad, really badly. And here I've just given up my career. Well, actually, I gave up my career earlier, and then the company failed. But here's where I'm at. My second company, I got on the phone and I called everybody I knew for days, 18 hours a day. I got there at 6. I stayed till, the West Coast shut down. Sometimes I'd call Hawaii, hoping to get, I called Hertz 28 times. I had a little yellow pad, and I'd write CLVM, called left voicemail. And I bugged these people until they probably hated me. You know what? Hertz became $1 million account for us. I'm not saying hooray for me. I'm saying hooray for persistence. Stick with it. Don't give up. I love this quote. I just read it the other day. A big secret is that you can bend the world to your will a surprising percentage of the time. And the guy that said that is Sam Altman. And he said, most people don't even try and just accept things the way that they are. When you call a customer and they say, will you call me back in 3 weeks? What are they saying? Are they saying, I want you to exactly call me back in 3 weeks? So you should write that down. I had a guy that worked for me who thought that's what they were saying. No, what they're saying is this. I'm busy right now. I got a million things. Call me back. So should you call them back in 3 weeks? No, call them back in 3 days. They won't even remember you. Right? Call them back. Be persistent, tenacious. Wow, I got excited on that one. Yes,
Me
ma'am.
too. Yes. Okay, so net worth equals your net work. That has been said on multiple occasions. So can you speak to the importance of building healthy relationships with consumers, investors, and colleagues?
I'm not the best networker in the world, I gotta be honest with you. I mean, if you work in the hotel business, you have to become a great networker. And I don't drink, so I spent, I don't even know, hundreds of nights away from my family with a Coke in my hand while everybody else around me was imbibing in adult beverages. I went because I had to go, and I forced myself to go. And a lot of the guys I was with would go up to their room. And I don't blame them, but I'd go down and go to the trade shows and the parties and the events and the mixers and all that kind of stuff. And what I really wanted to do was to get to know the people, right? I wanted to get to know the people. So we had a saying when I was running sales for Marriott. It was, know the dog's name. Know the dog's name. Well, what that means is you get to know somebody well enough that when you're calling them, you can talk to them about their dog. Well, doesn't that sound a bit disingenuous? No. It sounds like a human being getting to know another human being. And we get so wrapped up in the other things that we sometimes forget. I also have another thing I wrote down on that subject, which is the platinum rule. You all know the golden rule, do unto others as, okay. The platinum rule is different. It says, do unto others as they would have done unto them. What does that mean? It means you know them well enough to know, or you've thought through it, you know what they want. Now, let me tell you, I'm an old guy. I'm a 60-year-old man who's been a big company guy and a little company guy and an investor, yada, yada. When you call me, what should you be wearing? I'm going to embarrass some people in here, and I'm sorry, but should you be wearing a t-shirt with a baseball cap backwards to a 60-year-old man who may or may not give you money? No, if you're going to come see me, lose the baseball cap, lose the t-shirt, put on a collared shirt, and leave me a voicemail, because guess what? My thumbs are fat, and I hate texting. Now, if you're going to call one of my kids, or, probably my grandkids, you can text all you want. Don't text me, call me. That's the thing I know how to do. By the way, I'm not talking about me. What I'm trying to tell you is, get to know your customers, and whatever it is that they want, sell them or talk to them in the way they want to be talked to. The number of people who call me and expect that I've got them in my contact list, if I have to begin a call with, hi, who is this? It just doesn't work, guys. Sell the way the customer wants. If you're calling me, hi, this is Jim Smith, bum, 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 if that makes sense. Form an emotional connection with me. And the last thing I wrote down is, know what their company does. I used to interview people who come into my company to get a job, and they'd sit down and I'd say, great, what do we do for a living here? I don't know. I just need a job. Cool, that's what I want. I want to give you my money. That's what I want to do. Make sense? Okay.
Being an entrepreneur can be incredibly exhausting, and I think right now during this time specifically, a lot of entrepreneurs are facing burnout. So what have you learned over the years about entrepreneurial burnout?
Oh, I'm trying to decide how honest to be on this. Should I be honest? Okay. I think we have another question on this, but I'm just going to answer it now. I was a bishop in the Mormon church, and I went to a church leadership where an apostle was there and another general authority, and it was in the conference center, and there was, 10,000 people in this thing, all church leaders of our faith. And some bishop stands up at the microphone and asks the big guys up front, the church leaders, how have you found balance in your life? And President Faust turns to Elder Bednar, if any of you are LDS, and says, he'll answer that. And the second fellow, Elder Bednar, said, you can't. And I about fell out of my chair. What honesty. That's the same answer I'm going to give you. If you want, I drive down here, I see these billboards in Utah County that says, work for us and still get home at 5. And that may be one of you, I don't know. That's not happening. You chose the wrong profession. Go work for somebody. You can get home at 5. It's a great life, by the way. But if you want to be an entrepreneur, you can't go home at 5. And win, you can go home and lose. I used to tell my fellow executive committee members at my startup companies, in Silicon Valley, there's somebody, and they're there till 10 at night while we go home. I hope you find it. I've never found it. It's like the guy on, well, you guys are too young. Well, there was this guy named Johnny Carson, and he used to have magicians on, and they would do these sticks with plates at the top, and they'd try to get them spinning. And just before one fell, they'd go to that one, and that's pretty much my life for 20 years. Right? I mean, it's just impossible. There's not a way to have balance and win. And you're gonna come up after and tell me about somebody like Jeff Bezos or, there's all these outliers. And particularly, we as entrepreneurs, we like to talk about the outliers, but the real truth is, most of us, in order to succeed, have to just grunt it out. And so you can't really ever graduate from grunt work. You can't graduate from grunt work. When I would ask, once in a while I'd get snippy with somebody who's trying to get a job with us, and I'd be interviewing them, and I'd say, hey, do you know how I find my car every night? And I'd say it was really, and they get great answers. You use the thing and you press it, and the lights go. Or you park my favorite one is you park in the same place every day? And I'd say, no, it's easy to find my car because it's the only one in the parking lot when I go home. And it's not always, I used to come in a little later, but it's one of the first ones in. Congratulations, you're an entrepreneur. That's what it takes to win. Again, there's always 1 or 2 exceptions out of 10 million, but all the entrepreneurs I know, that's the life they live. So don't graduate from grunt work. I mean, just, grind it out.
First one in, last one out.
Yeah, good. An accounting principle, Bart. By the way, I used to be an accountant, and that's one of the most interesting presentations on accounting I've ever seen. Wow, the Fibonacci sequence. In my book, I wrote a book. There's a cartoon, and it says, it's a woman and a man at a restaurant, and the man is trying to get this woman excited about going out with him, and it says, well, talking about accounting isn't quite as fun as being an accountant. I put that in my book because it was so funny. Anyway, great job, Bart.
I love it. So execution and strategy. Can you tell us more about what you've learned when it comes to executing a strategy? I know you've said that execution beats strategy, so can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, even on our stock certificates at Mindshare, it has in Latin, I went and looked it up, it has in Latin, and it says, I don't remember what it is in Latin anymore, but it says, stop talking and go do something. And I hate to admit this, but I have an MBA from Northwestern in strategy. I think most of my professors are dead now, so it's okay for me to say this. Strategy's great, circle and box charts, McKinsey, Bain, everybody. I did all that stuff. Just go do something. Go make a sale. Execution kills strategy. And part of execution is, I don't want to say perfection, but it's caring enough about what you do to execute to the nth degree. I used to have a saying, look, I don't care if you bring me a draft of, let's say I'm talking to a marketing person. I don't care if you bring me a draft of your press release, but if it's going out, it better not have any typos on it. How about you guys? Do you want to have somebody operate you? Do you want your surgeon to have had typos, the equivalent of typos in surgery? Right? So Details, details, details. I had a guy that I worked with at Marriott. It was one of my dear friends, Roy Barnes. He used to tell this story about he got hired by an airplane. A guy who had an airplane would hire Roy as a young man to come in and vacuum the airplane. And Roy said he'd do about a B- job. And then the guy one day said, hey, let's go for a ride. So he took Roy up, and they went up in the air, and they turned upside down. And all this gunk and garbage fell from the floor all over Roy. And he said, I didn't have any problems being detailed after that. So my thinking is that execution is so important. Like, for example, another great place where this is that you're a receptionist. If you are someone that's taking calls for your company and your receptionist is never there. One time at Mindshare, here we are, we're a company that's taking customer feedback. And when you call, you get an answering machine. Hi, we don't care enough about you to actually pay someone to answer the phone. Please leave a message and we might or might not get back to you when it's convenient for us. So the details, and again, I can give you a whole bunch of different examples of that, is the concept is just execute everything you can. Typos, grammar. Somebody sends me stuff and there's mistakes on the opening subject line of an email. Just spend the extra few minutes and get things right. Let me give you another great example. One of our customers was a McDonald's, and we found that people that drive through at McDonald's were saying that it was filthy, but the people who were inside this McDonald's said it was clean. And I couldn't figure it out, and so guess what I did? I got in my car and I drove through the drive-through, and guess what? It was a filthy mess. But the people inside, could they see that? No, because guess when the last time they got in their car and drove through that drive-in was? Probably a year. So I would advise you, whatever business you're in, you should do the thing you're asking your customers to do. Does that make sense? So if you are Saveology, you should fill out all the forms they have to fill out. You should do the exact process. You should do whatever it is you're selling, you should use. You should know how it works and doesn't work. I actually have a bunch of examples, but I'm not going to embarrass anybody because I want you to succeed and I don't want this to be out on the internet. But let me just say, if you've used some of your own products, you would go, oh, this doesn't make sense. Okay? I think that's enough on that one. I got more of it.
Sure. So you mentioned a little bit about, say, a receptionist who doesn't show up, right? And at RevRoad, we talk a lot about teams and the importance of having strong teams. So what have you learned when it comes to building, maintaining, and managing an effective team?
Okay, I wrote down 5 things about this. These are my HR learnings from an old guy. Hire the athlete and teach the skills. Those of you who remember Steve Young, if I was a football coach, I'd have hired Steve Young for any position other than maybe center or offensive guard, because he's not big enough. But Steve Young was one. Who's the guy right now for the Saints? Taysom Hill. He's proving what I'm saying, right? Hire the athlete and not the skill. Bill Marriott, when I worked for Bill Marriott, he'd always say, you know, hire the attitude and teach the skill. You can teach somebody the skills, but if they don't have the right attitude, don't hire them. So that's one. You know, and part of that is if you hire and train turkeys, you just get really good trained turkeys. They're still turkeys, right? Okay, number 2, you've heard this one, I'm sure. Hire slow, fire fast. Everyone says it, very hard to do. It's hard to fire your best friend, or your buddy, or your elders quorum president, or your wife's sister's brother-in-law. That's why I don't try to hire any of those people. 3, hire people who act like owners and not employees. I know you've heard that, I've seen it. Hire salespeople that can calculate their bonus on the way home. I made some big mistakes when I was at Marriott about putting in all these different doors and gates that would open up the potential. Salespeople don't want to do all that. They just want to drive home and go, that sale I made just made me $7,000. So make sure your salespeople can figure out their bonus on the drive home. I call those kind of people, by the way, I call them friendly, hungry Dobermans. You ask me what is my criteria for hiring a salesperson? A friendly, hungry Doberman. They have to be nice, but they have to be a Doberman. Last thing, and there's a lot more, but these are just 5. Don't hire sycophants. Yes, men. Yes, women. You surround yourself with a whole bunch of people that want to tell you how handsome you are every day, you're going to die. Hire people that say, you know what, you're looking kind of pudgy. Or, I don't think we should sell to this account because of XYZ. Or, did you know that you are selling a engineering release that we aren't going to release for 8 months, and you're selling it as if it's real today? Did you know that? I'm just making these up. I had to throw a bone to the engineers, right? Don't hire yes men and yes women. Hire people that are going to help you grow to the next one. Look you right in the eye and tell you you're wrong.
Thank you. Before we open it up for audience questions, I have one last request, or I guess opportunity.
Okay.
Is there any last ounce of wisdom that you would like to give us today?
Yes. Put the shower curtain inside the tub. Because my grandsons didn't do that yesterday at Bear Lake. What a mess. No, that's not it. I actually have 2.
Okay.
One of them is become a real person. I don't know Bree from Adam or Eve, but she and I have had conversations on the phone, and I love talking to her because she's real. I didn't feel like she was trying to fake me out of anything.
Thank you.
Be a real person. You know, one time I'm in the elevator with the same guy, Roy, that worked for me, and Bill Marriott's my boss, and we're in the elevator on the bottom floor of Marriott. We're going up to the 6th floor where there's all the rarefied air and all the mahogany, and Roy's working on a project where we have to downsize at Marriott. This is 30 years ago. And so I introduce him. I say, Bill, this is Roy. Roy works with me. Roy, this is Bill. And Roy's working on this engineering, this project where we have to cut some people. And Bill says, how's it going, Roy? Now, Roy is in a cube. He's like 19 levels down from Bill Marriott. And he turns right to him and he says, well, Bill, we think we're going to find a place for you in the organization. And I thought, oh, please laugh, Mr. Marriott, laugh. I'm thinking, I'm going to... And I got to be honest with you, that's the way Roy was. I learned something from that. Be real. People want to be around real people all the time. Last thing, and then I'll shut up here. You become the champion. As much as I like teams, and I think teams are really important, and I've talked about that a little bit, I've always loved these 2 things, these 2 thoughts. One is, every great institution is merely the lengthened shadow of an individual. And that was by Ralph Waldo Emerson. We don't talk just about Apple, we talk about Steve Jobs, right? We talk about, you guys just said, Bart was up here wishing Darren a happy birthday, and he said, let's have one of our RevRoaders. No, let's have the RevRoader come up here, right? Because I happen to know a little bit about Darren. Stroll every park, search every city. You'll find no monument to a committee. Stroll every park, search every city. You'll find no monument to a committee. What does that mean? What am I trying to say by that? I'm saying don't wait. Don't sit back. Be the guy or the gal. Be the person. I think that consensus, which is what meetings do and committees do, consensus drives to mediocrity. Think about it. Lowest common denominator. We all have to vote, and if we all have to vote yes, it's going to take it down to the lowest common denominator. Sometimes you just got to take the bull by the horns and do it. And so I would invite you, whatever your position is in your company, the RevRoaders, the people working at companies, I would invite you to become that person. Nobody told me that I had to do stuff. I just went and did it. And, sometimes you mess up, and you get to do it at a different company. What fun. So, last thing is you become the champion. You become the catalyst for success at your company.
I love that. Thank you. We will now open it up for audience questions. So if you have a question, if you would kindly and gracefully raise your hand, and we will have some mic runners running microphones to you so everyone can hear you online.
My name's Wes. By the way, thank you for all that advice. I was wondering, what would you say the purpose of business is?
It's a great question. Well, it would be different for different people, right? I mean, some people go into business because they have an altruistic sense of wanting to help other people. I would say that isn't the majority of people, particularly in a capitalist country like ours. The majority of people going into business are because they want to, they either have a great idea that's going to make a lot of money, or they feel like something inside of them that wants them to make a lot of money. And the truth is, most people go into business to make money because they have to, but not everybody. And a lot of people have altruistic motives and social motives. I didn't. You just got to be honest with you. I was old. I was 40 when I became an entrepreneur. And I was kind of enjoying my lifestyle. And, you know, if you're an executive at Marriott, they give you good rooms, right? I had a good lifestyle. And I just always wanted to be a CEO and see if I could do it. And I knew I was never going to be the CEO of Marriott. I don't have the right last name. Although that changed, interesting. But, yeah, so my intentions then was everybody was going out and making a lot of money, and I wanted to go be a CEO of a tech startup. That was kind of my goal since I was a young man. So I don't know. I think everybody has their own reasons, but I'd say a large majority of them are either people that don't like working for other people, which is a lot of people, or people who want to, you know, get rich and be successful and see if they can do it. With a smattering of people who just say, you know what, I'm going to do this to help others. That'd be my guess. I haven't seen the survey. Great question.
Hey, thanks. My name's Ryan. So on your long drives between Provo and Salt Lake, and you knew you were going to marry this woman, and you also knew that one day you wanted to be a CEO.
Well, I hoped I would marry this woman.
Okay, you hoped. When you got to your 40s, you probably had kids that were, you know, getting old. You wanted to spend time with them. How did you justify to your wife and family that you were going to make that sacrifice and you were going to be that last car in the parking lot?
Could you ask an easier one? Well, you've heard this from other people, I'm sure. I can't say I never missed a soccer game, but I was, you know, 80%, maybe 85. And it actually was pretty bad at Marriott, too, because they did this stupid thing in the hotel business. They don't build all the hotels in one city. So I was traveling 80% of the time. So, yeah, it's tough. I had to make up for it. You know, one-on-one time with each of my children. Did my best to be there at every soccer and basketball. In fact, I coached soccer. It's a whole other story. I don't know anything about soccer, and here I am, the coach. That was an assistant coach. That was an attempt to be with my children. I have a wife that deserves a medal. I mean, she did way more than I did in raising the kids, but I was there, and I'm particularly every weekend. I did my best. Sometimes it was actually worse in the hotel business because they have all the meetings on the weekends when the hotels are empty. So your own internal hotel business meetings are always on weekends. So that part got better. That's a super question. That's a hard question, isn't it? There's no easy answer.
Right.
Thank you.
Hey, Rich, great job, by the way. I'm going to take this off. A lot of our entrepreneurs here face changing the names of their companies for different reasons, right? What prompted the change from Mindshare to InMoment?
Oh, man, that's a super question. I did not name it Mindshare. It was named before I got there. I think I was the 5th or 8th employee or something like that. I really was a founder because it was my money that went in first or second, and I was the chairman of the board. But I didn't come. We just had this big failure at my last company, and so I told Sperry, look, if you want to, go do it again, and if it's going to work, we'll come. So I inherited a name I didn't like, to be quite honest. And then I went out to be a LDS mission president, and so I had to resign as the chairman and president. So I'm out in Alabama, still on the board of directors, and we make a decision as a company to buy our biggest competitor, or I should say our equal competitor at the time. It's called Empathica. And so I wasn't there for all the discussions. I was just there for the board meeting presentations, and they came to us and they said, look, we got Mindshare, we got Empathica, we got Salt Lake City, we got Toronto. Everybody wants to feel warm and fuzzy. Let's choose something else. So we chose a third name, In Moment, which wasn't the first choice. There were other names, and we voted on them. I voted vociferously against one of them, and In Moment came out and worked out great. I've seen it with a lot of companies where it wasn't an acquisition, and you all know what I'm about to tell you. Think hard on if you can, up front, because something will come along that will make you change, right? I mean, there are famous restaurants that had chicken in their title and wanted to expand. A little bit of a problem, right, if you have chicken in your title. So, phone soap is an interesting one. I know exactly what it does. But I assume if you're ever going to try to get into hospital sterilization, I made that up, I have no idea, that's a tough name. So just, In Moment is kind of catchy. You're having this experience in the moment, and that will apply to car dealerships and restaurants and retail and buying books on Amazon. I mean, it's sort of in the moment. So if you can be a little bit more generic up front, it'd be helpful. Some of you are going, yeah, thank you for telling me now. I can't help you on that. Yes, please.
Hey, I'm Jeff. Thanks for being here. You talked a lot about bootstrapping, which is something we really believe in, but then you did go and raise venture funding. What kind of criteria did you look for in investors since you were bootstrapping and wanting to then raise money? What were some of the things you looked for in them?
Okay, so we bootstrapped $450,000, and that it was $50,000 of mine and John's dad, and I can't remember everybody, and we got some other people. Then fast forward from 2002 or 3 all the way to 2011, and I get this opportunity. I was volunteered to be a mission president for my church. And I say that, and I don't mean that to sound negative, but it's sort of just coming out of the blue. You're running your company, and the next thing you know, you're in Alabama for 3 years. So we had some time. We had 8 or 9 months. And so I did all of the prep work on that. And then John and I sat down with our employees and said, which one. And I got to tell you, it was a mix, because you want to take the most money, but what if they're jerks? And there are jerks in the financial industry. There are people that will attempt, to take advantage of you. I'm just going to be honest. So what I did is I ended up, we didn't get an investment banker. That's the first thing. I did it. And I pitched 30 PE and VC funds. And I got 9 term sheets, and then we got down to 3. And then we looked at those 3 and made a decision that was kind of a mixture between valuation and who would help us, like who had the best Rolodex, or seemingly had the best Rolodex, and who would actually help us improve in our weaknesses. And that's how we made a decision back in those days. And it was tough telling the other 2 no, because they were also really great. Now, we were in a position where we were growing at 40% a month, and we'd had 101 consecutive months of increasing revenues, and that's always a better position to be in. I've been on the other side of that position. I went to Silicon Valley once and begged for 2 weeks, and right after 9/11, And this VC looks at me and he goes, "Hey, Rich, if you could transport yourself like Star Trek, if you just like flipped and all of a sudden moved over to there, I still wouldn't fund you. We're not funding anybody. Go back to Utah." That was not a pleasant experience. We went back and ended up selling the company because I couldn't get any funding. Short version is decide what your priorities are, decide if you need outside help, and decide, if the valuations come out close. I can't talk about that. I'm going to say we had to do some negotiation because the valuations were not all within spitting distance, and the one we wanted wasn't the one giving, a fair deal in my mind. By the way, all entrepreneurs, you all think you're worth way more than you are. And that's okay. Just live that dream. It'll be popped. The bubble will be popped. But just live it while you can.
Okay.
I was you, right? I'm an investor and I was you, so I can be nasty to myself. You're not worth that. Yes, I am. Okay.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Rich. Last question before we break for lunch. What is something fun that your success has allowed you to do?
So I'm mentally going through, shall I give you the appropriate answer or the real answer? So I drive an old truck, 5 years old, so I'm not that guy. I don't have a Tesla and a Ferrari, and a lot of my friends got Ferraris and all that stuff. I think it lets me sleep at night. That's a horrible thing to say. I mean, I can go to Hawaii. We go to Hawaii. My wife and I just got back from Hawaii, sat next to a woman coughing the whole way home, got COVID, and almost died. But other than that, no. Frankly, the true answer is it allows me to give money away and not worry about it. And that sounds self-congratulatory, but it's the honest answer is, I used to have to think, well, can I give $500 to this person right now to help them? And now I can just do it. You're all going to come up, hey. But that's sort of the truth. And then we do fun things. I have a nice house, and I funded my grandchildren's college, and that's been a pleasant experience. And like I said, I'm not going to win any awards for being a fashionista. So I don't have that, but it's been nice to help other people when they need some help. That's really fun, to be honest with you. That's more fun. To me, that's more fun than other things. And we built a new house, and I drive an old truck.
I love it. Beautiful.
I don't know if that's good or not, but that's the truth.
That's perfect. Well, thank you so much, Rich. We have a gift for you.
Woohoo!
Coming up.
A new car!
Another old truck, yeah.
By the way, I might get a Tesla. I'm not saying anything bad about Tesla.
Yes.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much. Let's give one more round of applause for Rich.